Sometime within the next minute or so, somewhere on the planet, another big idea is being born. It might be a new song, a new product, who knows? And who knows how to make this idea grow and introduce it to the world? Let's find out. Welcome to The Next Big Idea with your host, Peter Gantner. The program is sponsored by kulaBrands, dedicated to help with branding, funding, and marketing the next big idea. And if that idea is yours, you want to pay particular attention to the particulars. Peter and his co-hosts and guests will explain just how it's done. If you happen to be an investor or just an interested party, you could benefit from the efforts of kulaBrands. You could become a part of their community of folks who want to help others and make money in the process. If that sparks your curiosity or wets your whistle, sit up and take notice. kulaBrands presents Peter Gantner and his guests on The Next Big Idea.
Oh, I'm so excited.
Hello, everyone. This is Peter Gantner, and that was Deb trying to break in on my conversation before I introduced her. And here is the universally famous Deb Caswell, and we are here with another episode of The Next Big Idea. Deb, say hi.
Hey, everybody. Super excited about today's show.
Oh, man, I am really excited. Guys, we're going to have Elliot Eddie on the radio show with us today. Absolutely incredible. But before we do that, I'm going to introduce you to my other co-host, Mr. Corey Moran.
What's up, everybody? I think Deb gets demoted from Universal just because she interrupted at the beginning. That's just my vote. But hey, glad to be here, everybody.
Come on.
Oh, my goodness. It seems like the longer we've been doing these shows, the less professional we're getting at them. But that's okay. We're okay. So with us today, like I said, guys, we have Elliot Eddie. I'm going to bring him on, and he's going to give you a little bit of his background. And the first segment, what I like to do, Elliot, is have you give your story of how you came about getting and becoming an entrepreneur. So, Mr. Elliot Eddie, say hi to everybody on the radio.
Hello, world. It's a pleasure to be here.
All right. So let's kick off, buddy, with your story. So give us a little background on you, and let's go from there.
Absolutely. My story is simple. It's just like so many of you guys that are listening. I grew up in the Bronx in New York. I am a city boy. I grew up in a time where, most of the people that were around me, they weren't entrepreneurs. They worked. When I was younger, I'm of that generation where everybody told you to go find you a good job, a good job. That was something that had benefits, I suppose, or somewhere that you can stay for the rest of your life. But I was a little bit different than that. I wanted a little bit more. So I went out there and tried to get those jobs, and I was able to get jobs as security guards and do a lot of labor, but not a lot of things that allowed me to use my mind. So I learned from an early age that what I really wanted to do is I wanted to be in control. I wanted to be in control of my time. I wanted to be in control of how much money I could actually make. I wanted to make money based on what I brought to the table. So I grew up knowing that I wanted to be an entrepreneur, but I didn't know that that's what it was that I wanted to be. I just knew that I wanted something different than what I saw.
So
I was like, yes.
Talking about that as a kid, and I think back to myself, I was always kind of curious and took chances and stuff. What were you like as a kid, being somebody, profiling a kid that became an entrepreneur? Were you curious? Were you a troublemaker? What was little Elliot Eddie like?
Oh my goodness, I was goofy, but I was a nerd. I was a goofy nerd. I spent most of my time in the library. I always wanted to be at school. I don't think until I hit my 12th grade, I never missed a day of school, whether it was snowing, no matter what was going on. I was in school. So I always wanted to be in school. I always wanted to learn. I spent most of my days at the library getting books. I was a reading nerd. I would go out and play basketball and everything. So I was the jock. I was the handsome jock, as I would call it now. But nobody's here to deny that story, so I'm rolling with that. I was definitely a nerd. I always wanted to be reading and learning and doing something different. I was always creative. I wanted to create something. I drew my own comic books. I just did nerdy things.
And what age were you when you first started? So you get out of school, you start some jobs. What age were you when you started your first entrepreneurial endeavor?
My first entrepreneurial endeavor, it's interesting. I didn't start that until I got to college. All the way up to college, I had jobs. But once I got into college, I was the guy that would take pictures while we were at, and this time we had Polaroid cameras back then, the ones that you take a picture and the picture comes out automatically. But I would take pictures while we were at parties, while everybody was having fun and they were drunk. And then when I saw them during the rest of the school year on the campus, I would sell them those pictures for $1 each. And that was my first entrepreneurial.
Oh my God.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Coincidentally, I have no pictures of myself, of course, but I had pictures of everybody. And then the ones that were compromising, I got to sell for a little bit more than
a little bit more money.
Yes. Who said college can't be fun?
High in demand, and the importance of a one product versus another, right?
That's actually a really great idea, Elliot. I love that. For back in the day, I mean, I'm so grateful that way back then there weren't cell phones and those kinds of things, but just because of the pictures that could have been taken. But I love, that's such a great idea. There's been so many times that I just wish I had a photographer with me back in the day when I used to just go and have fun and be just really dumb. I would have loved to have had a photographer with me where I could decide what gets published and what doesn't, but still just to have the memories of those events. That's crazy. I love that idea.
All right, so Elliot, here we are. Your first job, junior photo taker. Okay. So where do we go from here?
Oh, while I was in college, I met another gentleman who did a lot of woodwork. So I joined a fraternity while I was in college, and he did a lot of woodwork, and he actually brought me on. So we would do woodwork together. We would take pieces of wood, carve out the letters of different fraternities and sorority organizations, shellac them, and then actually go and sell those. And I would be the salesman also. So I would go sell those at different events. So I got a chance to learn how to be in front of a lot of people, how to do actual sales of products that I've made, how to actually make the products and figure out how much to sell them for.
Now, Elliot, you're first going out and selling, because here you are, nerd, a little bit of jock in there to go play some basketball and stuff. How did you get from, I've got to go sell? Were you comfortable with that right out of the gate? Or was that something that was difficult for you the first couple times? How did that process go to become, because you're a phenomenal salesperson right now, right? I mean, if I needed ice sold in the Arctic, I'd get you to go sell it for me.
Absolutely.
How did that process come about from you going from book nerdy kind of guy to this super salesperson?
Absolutely. And let's not forget handsome. Let's not forget handsome. So it wasn't really a big jump for me. It was something that I knew was the next step that I had to do. So I just jumped into it. I went in, I rented the table, and I went out there with the idea that we're going to see what happens. I put out, it was so much fun because the first one that I did, I put out all of my products. And it was in the student union, so you have people going back and forth. And all I did was talk with people. All I did was actually talk to people. I didn't talk to them about buying the products at first. I just talked to them, make little jokes here and there, or ask them how they're doing, or make a joke about their class, or talk about what they had on. I wish I had a pair of shoes like that. Just something like that to get them to stop. And once I got them to stop, I knew that they would stop and they would look at the table and they would ask me a question about the table. And I just took it as a regular conversation from there.
Now, Ellie, you deal with a lot of entrepreneurs and stuff. You've been doing it your whole life. Is there any advice you'd give to the people that are listening that are afraid? I want Corey to go on this too, because Corey, through our business opportunity, kulaBrands, recently had never really went into stores and sold. He had influenced and recruited and stuff like that into organizations. But Corey, if you can cover a little bit of how you were nervous your first time going in a store and got through that. But Elliot, real quick, any advice you'd give the listeners if they're afraid to go out and sell, something that might help them get past that fear?
The thing that got me past that fear, and I think it's a universal thing, is that, I learned that you don't really sell a product. You're really selling yourself. You're really just being personable. So once I figured out that, what my personality was, what my humor type was, and I accepted my humor, I just went out and I was just myself. And I think that if anybody goes out and you're just yourself and not focused on selling somebody something, but just having a human conversation, and by the way, bringing up what you have and showing the value in it, it makes it so much easier.
Yeah.
Wait,
I agree 100% there with Elliot. The good thing is I was equipped with the mindset that I knew that as long as I went on that other side of fear, that great things would happen. So yes, I was nervous. Yes, I had some anxiety about stepping through the front door. But I also knew at the same time that I had done my due diligence and the learning side of things about what I was walking in with. So that was a 100% confidence booster there. And when you open it, you imagine you getting eaten by a lion, right? When you walk through the door, you imagine you're just going to get your head taken off by a lion, but that's obviously not the truth. And that's what fear does to you. So anybody out there listening, once you walk through the door, I call it the magic of walking through the door. Everything goes out the window once you walk through that door. You confront a customer or a client or whoever that looks like, and it's just an easy situation. It's very personable. There's banter back and forth. You compliment them on their store, and then it just leads into a beautiful experience.
Man, that is awesome. And I got to tell you guys, the one thing that when I go into a sales situation, I'm not selling them on something that's for my benefit. I'm selling them something that's going to bring value to their business. So when they put my product in, they're going to make money off of it. It's going to enhance their business. It's going to make things better. So I'm not just doing it for me to get a sales commission. I'm doing it to create value in that person and in that business. And that makes it a lot easier to sell. We're coming up on the close of this segment. We're going to be back with Elliot. He has invented the entrepreneur game. We will be back right after this break with more conversation with Elliot Eddie.
You're tuned in to Better Living Radio, streaming worldwide across the internet, and you're listening to entrepreneur and thought processor Peter Gantner on the next big idea. Stay tuned. Peter will be right back. You may have heard Jackie Simmons on Better Living Radio. If so, you know that she's full of sage advice and fun ways to view the world that keep your stress levels under control. You may not know that Jackie also offers webinars and trainings on timely topics that touch the most important and sensitive areas of our lives. For your business, there's how to sell with confidence and ease, and the 4 keys of effective public speaking. Both are jam-packed with the tools you need to be seen, be heard, and be profitable. Bringing it closer to home, Jackie shares what she's learned as the mother of a teen suicide attempt survivor in How to End the Teen Suicide Epidemic. In this presentation, Jackie shares the 6 key indicators that your loved one may be at risk and the 6 simple steps anyone can take to mitigate that risk. To see what's coming next and save your seat, visit mindsetseminars.com. Better Living Radio is on the air, and yes, it's everywhere around the world. Are you wondering, hey, what's the big idea? Well, funny you should ask. Our show is called The Next Big Idea with Peter Gantner. In fact, we're back with more on Better Living Radio.
We are back on The Next Big Idea. This is Peter Gantner. Of course, I've got my co-host Corey and Deb with us, and we have Elliot Eddie. All right, so Elliot, we're at this point. You're in college. Give us the rest of the story quickly, and then we're going to get into your product and what you're doing right now and all the cool things you've got going on with the entrepreneur game.
Oh, man. So from there, after graduating college, I did a lot of different things. I've probably had, I don't know, maybe 50 or 60 different type of jobs. I never really stayed on the job long because that was not where my head was. I always wanted to do something for myself. So I've done so many different things. I mean, I've purchased airtime on television shows and then created television shows and then sold my own commercial time. I've done it on the radio. I've sold all types of products from Kirby vacuums, knocking on doors in Long Island. I mean, I've done so many different type of things to find out what it was exactly that I had to bring to the table, which was a great time, man. I learned a lot about myself. I learned the things that I like to do. I learned the things that I didn't like to do. But I grew up, and I learned, and it really honed me and pushed me toward my own entrepreneurial journey and where I needed to be and what I needed to share with the world.
And so, Elliot, what was your first serious business, after college? What was the first business that you started that, really started to make you a full living, right?
Okay. My first business that actually was successful was a tax preparation company. What I did is I opened up a tax prep. I always wanted a tax preparation company. So I started to do that. And the interesting thing about it is most people who start a company like your Jackson Hewitts and so on, what they do is they go to a strip mall. They'll pay, $1,500 a month for rent there, and then you have to buy computers and desks and tables and servers, and you have to do advertising, and you have to get workers. And what I said was I wanted to get into business, but when I did all of the research for that, that would cost me $60,000 upfront money before I even had the first tax return done. So I said, well, I didn't have that money, but I still wanted to do the business. So, entrepreneurship is about changing and trying to figure out a way to get the job done regardless of what you see. So what I did is I said, well, most people don't like going to those places anyway. You got kids running around, rubbing their nose and touching everything, people right next door to you, listening to your business. They would probably much rather be in their home turf, at home. So I said, well, why don't I make mine a mobile tax preparation business? That way, all I would need to start is a computer, a laptop, a printer, some paper, some ink, and I could go to my clients. So I took a business that potentially would cost me $60,000 to start, and I started that business for less than $800.
Wow.
It's been 11 years since I've been doing that, and I still go to my clients. My average client has been with me for 7 years, which is unheard of in the tax preparation business. And I have basically no overhead.
That is insane, Elliot.
Great.
You know what? I would prefer to do it that way. A tax preparer that actually comes here where all of my stuff is. That's brilliant. I love that you came up with that idea.
And it's the personalized service, because everybody that I go to, they feel like I am their tax preparer. Most people, when they call me, they have no idea that I have 100 other customers or 200 other customers that are not them. Everyone feels like I am their personal tax preparer. And that's the type of service that, that I want people to feel. That's the type of feeling I wanted to give, and that's what I've been able to do.
And that's the reason why you're keeping your customers for 7 years, right?
Yes, exactly.
Awesome.
Exactly.
Okay,
Treat
so
them with
now
respect.
we're here right now. But before we jump into that, you are a phenomenal public speaker. Tell us a little bit about your journey, and give us a little bit. You were, I don't want to get it wrong, buddy, but one of the top speakers in the country or in the world, correct?
In the world, yes, sir. Yes, sir. Well, so what happened was I've been a Toastmaster for a little while. I remember in the beginning, my wife was at work and she had a Toastmasters club at a job, and she loved it. I never heard of them. So she came home one day saying, hey, baby, you would love this. You would love Toastmasters. You would be so great at it. You should do it. You should join. So I did what every adoring husband always does. I ignored her. So I ignored her for a few years. But eventually, I told you I was a nerd. Eventually, one year, I was looking for something else to put in my schedule, something that I thought was fun. So I decided to join Toastmasters. I'm a nerd. Anyway, I went in there. It was a great time, but there was this one woman that was sitting across the table, and she kept staring at me. Wonderful woman named Linda Kennedy. And she walked up to me and she said, you know what? I think you would do well here. So I stayed there. I gave my first speech. It was a 2 to 3 minute speech. It wasn't anything big. It was called an icebreaker, just one of those things where you speak just to get used to speaking in a class. And she told me that I was phenomenal and that I could actually become one of the top speakers in the world. And that little motivation helped me. It made me think, I'm always positive about myself. So I said, yeah, I could do that. I could definitely do that. So I stayed in Toastmasters. They have this competition called the World Championship of Public Speakers. That's when 30 to 35,000 people around the world go to head-to-head speaking competitions, 5 to 7 minutes, and it's a process of elimination until you get down to the top 10 speakers in the world. Then they go to some special location and they battle it out for first, second, and third. And in 2016, I've made it to the top 10 in the world. And ever since then, I've been one incredible speaker, as I've been told.
And remember, handsome, buddy.
And handsome.
Yes.
Don't forget
Yes,
that.
handsome. I was going to say that, but I didn't want to hit him with it too often, too much. I didn't want to overkill on the handsome. They might not be listening to the words.
That's awesome, buddy. All right, so now let's jump into the entrepreneur game. How'd you get to that? Tell us the story. Of course, I've heard it, but the audience hasn't heard. Here you are. You start working with some kids on entrepreneurship. Go ahead and tell them how that came about, buddy.
Absolutely. So when I after I finished winning that distinction, I started doing some keynote speaking. But what I really love to do is entrepreneurship. I wanted to teach children what I've learned, and that's the love of entrepreneurship and the possibilities that it opens up for you. So I went to the public library in my city, and I started doing free entrepreneur workshops for children. So I would have a class during the summertime. I would have a class of anywhere about 20 children, ranging from about 12 years old to 18, plus their parents would be there. So one particular summer, a couple of summers ago, I was in the class and I was talking about entrepreneurship. I had a young man that was sitting in front of me. He was 14 years old. So I decided to ask, well, what type of business would you like to open when you get a chance to open your business? And the young man looked at me and he said, well, I can't open a business. You have to be special to open a business, and I'm not special. And it broke my heart. It broke my heart. You know, first of all, he had a business. He knew how to fix bikes and didn't realize that he had a business. So one, it broke my heart because he had talent and skills, and there was apparently no one in his life that was telling him that he could use those talents for his own benefit as a business. You know, and just knowing that he was walking around, he was going to his local store on the corner, but when he looked at the proprietor, he did not see himself being able to be there. So I started thinking about all of the kids in the class and all of the kids around the world who no one has told them that entrepreneurship is something that they can do. So I said, well, how can I change this? You know, I see the problem. How can I create a solution? I remember when I was growing up, I loved board games. I loved Monopoly. I loved the game of life. Monopoly, I don't think I've ever lost a game since 1974. So I was great at that. But it taught me to have a love for real estate. It didn't teach me necessarily how to do real estate, but it gave me a love for real estate. So I said, well, what if there was an entrepreneur game that would teach children how to start and grow their own businesses and how to do things that entrepreneurs do? I looked online, I couldn't find anything like it. So I decided to create one.
So for the audience that's listening, Elliot, can you let them know, just like you let that kid know in that room, that they can be entrepreneurs and that they should get the entrepreneur game because it's going to help them get a great start? And why don't you tell them where they can go find the entrepreneur game and how they can check it out a little bit more after the radio show?
Oh, absolutely. Just like those children found out, and just like I found out throughout my life, you know, every single person has something in them to contribute to the world. You have something special. You have something, a talent that you have a thought, you have ideas. These are all things that other people need to know and other people need to see. And there's only one you, so you're the person to bring this out. So I think everyone needs to know that there's some talent and skill that they have that they can use to create not only value for someone else, but value for themselves as well. You create value for someone else by bringing something that will improve their lives. And you create value for yourself by contributing that, because that is legacy. That's what we're here to do. And of course, it's going to bring you some monetary benefits as well, which is it's like a cherry on top. The entrepreneur game is one of those games that you don't really find very often. It's a game that shows you how to create an idea, how to just create an idea out of thin air. Maybe it's something that you've wanted to do. Maybe it's something that you're laughing and joking and never really thought about doing. But creating that and making that real on that board game, and then go throughout the steps of playing and building that game. Go throughout the steps of learning to invest and to negotiate, to budget, to market. How do you market a business? How do you adjust when things happen in your life? You know, even the skills of entrepreneurship, they're transferable. So whether you open that business now or later, those skills that you gain from playing this game is going to transfer into your life, period. No matter what it is that you do, whether it's school, whether it's work, it's going to enhance you. And this is one of those few games that actually teaches you and allows you to learn that process over and over and over. No two games are ever alike. I've placed this game up online for sale because, you know, nowadays there are really no traditional toy stores like there were when I grew up. The KB's toy stores and the Toys R Us.
Come back after this break. You're gonna let them know where they can find the entrepreneur game. We'll be back after the break. See you on the other side.
So are you wondering where the next big idea will come from? Well, you'll hear about it first here at Better Living Radio. See, this is the show called The Next Big Idea. Maybe you got the next big idea, or maybe you just like to make some money from it. Peter Gantner will explain when we come back on Better Living Radio. You've heard it said right here, you can't move gigantic boulders unless you've got some kind of leverage. You know, like a crowbar positioned in just the right spot. With enough leverage, you can multiply your strength and move mountains. The idea applies to investing too. Think of it. How'd you like to own companies like Roku or MasterCard or Raytheon and put down as little as 10% to unlock the treasure chest of unlimited upside gains while drastically reducing your risk, and do it all with zero borrowing cost? You just need that leverage and a little know-how. So Dan Frischberg and the entire Money Man team are making that possible. They're handing you your very own investment crowbar in special step-by-step, click-by-click instructional videos called the Layaway Option Service. It's for beginners and pros alike. Look, if you want to make real money, you owe it to yourself to take advantage of this once-in-a-blue-moon opportunity. It's your chance to see the results for yourself. The cost is next to nothing, and look what's waiting for you. Generally, you'll get 3 detailed trades each week, quality, actionable trades. You get detailed instructions on buying and selling specific put and call options. The Layaway Option Service shares specific underlying stocks, expiration dates, strike prices, and shows you how much money you could make instantly. It's Dan Frischberg's proven money-making discipline that over 50 years has made a lot of people rich. Lots of other benefits are waiting for you too, along with these special step-by-step, click-by-click instructional videos. The Layaway Option Service. Too much to detail here, but it's all right there at themoneyman.com. themoneyman.com. Welcome back to Better Living Radio and this amazing idea for a radio show. It's called The Next Big Idea. Rather ironic, wouldn't you say? Hey, if you've got an idea, you might want to talk with host Peter Gantner or one of his guests here at Better Living Radio. Look, here they come now.
We are back, and luckily that was a quick break because we are with Elliot Eddie, and he was just about ready to tell us where we can find the Entrepreneur Game. Elliot?
Absolutely. The Entrepreneur Game can be found, of course, on Amazon. If you go on Amazon, just type in the Entrepreneur Game. You will find it popping up right there. You can also go to our website, educationalgamestore.com. That's educationalgamestore.com. On our website, you'll get even more information than you do on Amazon. You'll see videos about it. You'll see information about it, pictures. You'll get to meet us and hear the story of the Entrepreneur Game. So much information, and you'll actually get to see the family of Entrepreneur Games on educationalgamestore.com.
That is awesome. Now, a lot of times people say, hey, my product will do this, my product will do that. We have some people that have been playing the game, and a matter of fact, Corey, with his daughter, have played the game and stuff, and now she's like a 12-year-old entrepreneur phenom out there, right? She's got her own business going. So, Corey, you want to tell us a little bit about that, buddy?
All right. So listen, I could start it with how every adult in the room got beat at the entrepreneurial board game by a 9 to 10-year-old. But let's back it up here for a minute. Let's go all the way back really quickly to how we actually met Elliot and his wife. And, we were doing kind of a circuit thing during the summers where my wife and I and our daughter Reagan would sell cords of steel at trade shows. And we go to high schools, we go to churches, we'd go to festivals, state fairs. So we were meeting a lot of people, and we were at this particular event where we were doing this trade show, and we were selling a product through kulaBrands, the cords of steel, and we had these neighbors next to us, and Elliot, his wife, we noticed one thing that I first noticed was that his wife was very outgoing. They were selling a product. They were getting a lot of people over to their booth, checking it out. My wife was checking it out, and so Lisa was like, hey, why don't you go talk to her husband? I think he's an entrepreneur, inventor of some sort. So I went over and we had Reagan take care of the booth at 9 years old. She's learned a lot of entrepreneurial skills and selling products and that stuff. So I just got to talking with Elliot, and I noticed right away that he was very energetic, very well spoken. He was telling me about several different ideas and businesses that he was in, but more specifically, he was telling me about the board game that he had developed. And so through that conversation, it turned into a meeting at Panera Bread, and we had a great conversation. I kind of laid out to him what it involved with my side of the company part, which was kulaBrands, which is kulaBrands, and he laid out his side, and then it kind of was just magic from there. Elliot's personality, as you guys know, and can see, and of course he's handsome as well. That always helped him, and it just unfolded from there. And it was we went on to down the road a little bit. We actually had Elliot come over with his wife. We had a party in our backyard. We were launching one of our country music artists, Donovan Lee. And Elliot brought the board game over, and we just put the trial to the test, to trial by fire with our family. And, what a great experience, the family getting together, a bunch of friends. And it turns out that our daughter, Reagan, at the time, I think was 9 or 10, and she beat us all in the game. So that's how that unfolded.
And now she's 12, and she's got her own art business. She's selling stuff. She's generating revenue, right? I mean, this is a true success story with you and Lisa and what you guys are doing in entrepreneurship, the game. She has literally on her path at 12 years old. It's just amazing.
Oh yeah, absolutely. What she learned from Elliot, from the board game itself, the growth that we've seen in her has been the most invaluable of anything to date. And I know Elliot's got some more board games behind the entrepreneur game.
Hit on those right now, because started with the entrepreneur game, Elliot. Now you've got Vetrepreneur. You've got the rise of the returning citizen. Let's talk about the line, where you're headed to, and ultimately, what is your goal with this company and with this brand?
It's all about education. I want to give people the practical information that they need to succeed, but even more so than that, I want to give them the idea. I want to plant in them the idea that there's nothing that they cannot accomplish. Once they get that idea that there's a way to make it real. So I started out with the entrepreneur game, and then I added on 3 more versions: a Spanish version, which is all in Spanish, a veterans version called Vetrepreneur, because our returning veterans coming back into this world, having to reclaim their lives, oftentimes don't think of entrepreneurship as a viable vehicle for them to come back in. And rise of the returning citizens. We have millions of people that are incarcerated, whether for whatever idea, whatever they've done. But as they come back in, our society doesn't automatically let them in. They have to be able to provide some value, be able to do something to provide for their family. So the entrepreneur game has developed something that gives them the mindset to take the skills that they know to begin to do a business for themselves, to earn a livable wage and to produce value for their family, but also to produce value for the communities in which they live. This game and everything that we do is really about empowering people. It's about giving people information, practical information, and experience on the board game that they can take and transfer into real life, and really empower them to be able to live their best life, be able to provide value for their families, and ultimately for the communities. America was built on the back of entrepreneurs. Entrepreneurs built this country. And if we're going to go forward, and if we're going to continue to increase, and we're going to continue to expand, we need entrepreneurs. And that's what the entrepreneur game is about.
And I want to get into that, buddy, because you hear that said a lot. Entrepreneurship, small businesses built this country. Let's have a little discussion on that, because the reason why they built the country, guys, is because entrepreneurs solve problems. And when you solve problems, you advance a society, right? Entrepreneurship is not about selling what somebody else is selling. It's about creating something new, something of value, like Elliot did with saying, hey, everybody else has the people going to, tax prepares, I'm going to go to them. Small tweaks. By the way, guys, if you're listening to this, you do not have to create the next, thing that's going to, cure cancer or whatever. Very small tweaks that improve products. And I talked about this on another show. One of the ways you can find a product or something to fix or improve, simply go on like Amazon or any source and look at the problems that people are having with the existing products that are in the marketplace, and then solve those small problems. You can build a tremendous brand on just that alone by going in and saying, hey, here's a universal problem that thousands, tens of thousands of people are having. I'm going to go solve that with a product and then bring that product to the marketplace. So Elliot, cover that a little bit on the, that entrepreneurship helped build, build this country. A lot of people would think workers did. Workers are a part of that process, but without entrepreneurs, there would be no jobs for those workers to fill.
Absolutely. It's about innovation. Entrepreneurs are problem solvers, and they are innovators. When somebody sat down and said, hey, I need to speak to somebody that's not even in this room, somebody came and said, and invented a telephone. When someone says, I needed to get to point A from point A to point B, and I need to get there quicker than I can walk, somebody invented a car. And then somebody said, well, the car is nice, but how about something a little cheaper? And they invented a bike, and they invented a skateboard. It's about innovation, solving problems, sort of seeing things as they are, or seeing what's needed from what they are. Like you were saying, it doesn't necessarily have to be a whole new genre. What it can be is a simple tweak to something that already exists. That's how we have headbands. That's why we have eye patches. It's something that's going to provide value and it's going to solve a problem that exists. And that's what entrepreneurs do. We're innovators. We're problem solvers. We're the ones that go out and we say, hey, this is the way that we fix a problem. This is the way that we better society, and then that opens up the door for workers of all types to come in and to put in work, because we need workers as well. We need people who go in and do the work and to push the entrepreneurs to push ideas so that we can come up with more ideas. That's what entrepreneurs have been to the United States and to the world.
Well, and with our model that we've created here with kulaBrands, with supporters of entrepreneurs. So you have the entrepreneur that's going to work the 16, 18-hour day, that's going to do shows on the weekend. We've put together a model where you can become a supporter of that. And Elliot's product is one of our products where, some of our members have helped crowdfund it to give them that initial funding. Now they're helping with branding and marketing. They're continuing to purchase the product. So there's that side of it as well. And I love your example about the car, because somebody invented a car, but then somebody said, hey, I'm just going to improve the tires on the car. Someone else said, wait a minute, we have dirt roads because that's what horses could ride on and buggies, but now we need pavement. And somebody figured out how to create better forms of pavement, and somebody had to do the paving. So out of one invention of the vehicle, there's been tons of them. There are companies that just make airbags, right? Somebody said, hey, we need safety. Let's create airbags. Glass, better windshields. I mean, it goes on and on and on, the development process. So one entrepreneur can literally create 10 other companies. So if you say, hey, I don't want to create a new industry, then look at trends in the marketplace and say, I'm going to create something better. One of my friends built a huge business just making accessories for Hummers. We are going to be back with Elliot after this break. Thank you for being with us so far. We'll be back.
You're tuned in to Better Living Radio, streaming worldwide across the internet, and you're listening to entrepreneur and thought processor Peter Gantner on the next big idea. Stay tuned. Peter will be right back. Each week in his live video market and economy update offered to his inner circle, Dan Frischberg delivers the in-depth, professional version of his famous Market X-ray report, live and interactive. Now that means you get to ask all the questions you want. And if you can't make the live meeting, you can watch the report on demand. Then email your questions in and Dan will email the answers back or include them in the next live report. Week in and week out, Dan brings you the ideas and specific stock picks from his friends, the people you see on TV and read about in the papers. You'll see what they're buying, how they're hedging, and when they're taking money off the table. At last, you'll get to see how the insiders negotiate the institutional macro bonds that billionaires on Wall Street rely on, the ones almost everyone else never even heard of. When you become an Inner Circle member, Dan will share with you his lifetime of experience and guide you to the best teachers, the best stock pickers, the best option strategists. And you'll be invited to exclusive working vacations in beautiful locations for the Inner Circle only, where you'll rub elbows with some of the most famous investors on Wall Street. So, how do you value the lifetime of skill and experience of a top investor on a mission to share it all with you and help you become one of the few winners? If you've been listening to Dan for a few years, he's likely already made you tons of money, or even more important, saved you from losing a fortune. Now, there are limits to the capacity of the online video sessions, but right now, for a limited time, Dan's offering you the position of charter subscriber, get this, for less than the price of a cup of coffee a day. For all the info or to subscribe, just simply click on themoneyman.com. themoneyman.com. Better Living Radio is on the air, and yes, it's everywhere around the world. Are you wondering, hey, what's the big idea? Oh, funny you should ask. Our show is called The Next Big Idea with Peter Gantner. In fact, we're back with more on Better Living Radio.
Hey, we are back with our final segment with Elliot Eddie and the Entrepreneur Game. I got to tell you guys, we are here, and the reason for this show is the participatory economy, getting more people to participate. And one of the ways we do that with kulaBrands is we have our supporter side of the business. So what I'd like, Elliot, if we could give some advice for people that want to be supporters of the business, and also some advice to entrepreneurs in this last and final segment. We'd love to jump into that. So go ahead, take it away, Elliot. And either side of that, if you want to give some advice, that'd be terrific.
Absolutely. You know, when I was growing up, they said it takes a village to raise a child. Well, I think it takes a community to produce an entrepreneur. You know, entrepreneurship is just one part of it. For me, this project would never have been possible had I not met people like Corey, had I not been involved with companies like kulaBrand, had there not been people out there who were willing to give their hard-earned money because they saw the vision and they saw that it could do something that could change people's lives. You know, the people, I think some of the biggest successes that I've had have not even come from that. They've come from people sharing my work and telling me about other people who they thought would be a good connection for me. You know, it really takes a community of people to be able to share, to be able to see one vision, and or with all of those people working together, that's how you get all of these things out here. So I'm appreciative of not just, you know, it's not just about what I've done, but it's about all of the people. You may see me in the forefront, but there's so many people that have been a part of this success that I can't claim any of this of my own.
So Elliot, explain
yes.
in detail some of the stories of people that have connected and helped you, right? So just kind of, because our audience is listening, they're going, well, how can I be of help? Can you, maybe go through, you ended up doing a show, correct? Can you tell us about the show you did for the, it's going to pop in my head here in a second, the Prophet, his chain of stores.
Camping World?
Yeah, Camping World.
Yes, there you go.
Yeah, so there was an incredible gentleman named Todd Young who one day sent me an email on Facebook saying, hey, I saw that this company, Camping World, was getting ready to have an expo where they were going to allow people to come in and pitch their businesses. Just thought I would shoot you an email. From that email, I went on and did some research, found out about it, applied for it. After applying for it, I was accepted. I flew all the way out to, it was in Chicago at the time, flew all the way out to Chicago, did a presentation, and lo and behold, they accepted me and took me in and put me on their website as a drop shipper, with the understanding that if it did well on the website, they would bring me into the stores. Now, how would I have even had an opportunity like that unless it was for some incredible person that said, you know what, I see something that is of value, let me share with my friend and let them run from there. And these are the type of people that you need in your life.
So Elliot, you're a take charge kind of guy. You're one of these guys. You're like me. If you need something done, you just go do it. Now, in my age, as I've gotten better, I've learned to delegate. I've learned to get other people involved. Have you had issues with that? And because having accepting help or a community of people to help you, that sounds pretty easy. Hey, you got all these people that want to help. But there is actually some struggles there with a lot of people and letting go and allowing for something like what just happened here to take place. And then, of course, giving people credit for that part of it.
Yeah, and I think the biggest thing is not wanting to hog all of the credit, not wanting to be the center of attention all the time, that it's okay to let other people be a part of your success. For me, what I've learned is, I'm a hands-on type person. I'm one of those type of people that always thought that if it's going to be done right, I'm going to have to do it. As I've gotten older, I've learned that, yes, I'm going to have to do it. I'm going to have to put in 100%. I'm going to have to go out and go after it. But there are other people that I can allow to be a part of the success and be a part of the story. And that's what people want. You know, we are a type of people, we are social human beings. We all want to be a part of a success story. So once you open up your heart and allow other people to be part of that success, it becomes so much easier. You do your part and allow someone else to do their part, and you come together for one great whole.
So as an investor, Elliot, cover on, so a lot of people think, okay, I want to keep as much of my idea as possible. I don't want to share. And I find through kulaBrands and through the stuff that I'm doing, I get way more joy and excitement to know that there's hundreds, even 1,000 people that are going to benefit. So we're having success together. Have you seen any of that type, the energy that's created from it and that movement side of things where, you know, when you're doing something, do you do it maybe a little bit more because you have this community counting on you? Give us some of that perspective.
I think it's a give and take in that aspect. I work harder because I know that there are people that are there that are supporting me, that are encouraging me. But I also think that what happens is that those people actually work harder to support and encourage me because I show the love back, because I go ahead and I do the ideas. They'll give me ideas. They'll say something that'll give me an idea for something else, and I'll go back and tell them. And I make sure that I give them the credit, and not only just the credit, but, you know, if there's money that comes through from it, I'm going to share that because, you know, there's so much out here. There's no need for me to try to hog everything. So I think it's a give and take. You know, they give me love, they give me energy, and they give me ideas. And I try to give them back that same love, energy, ideas, whether it's in the form of energy, whether it's in the form of money, whatever the form, or the form of a sincere thank you so much. I could not have done this without you. And I think that's important.
I agree 100%. And I think here's one of the things, and maybe we can cover a little bit of this on Elliot. Of course, when I was growing up, if you were an entrepreneur, you were saluted and, you know, people admired you. Today, where this generation is going, that has changed a little bit, right? And there's been a lot of villainization of entrepreneurship and that, especially in this younger generation and moving forward. And I think, as from my opinion, which is why we created kulaBrands, I believe the participatory economy can allow that to change, right? You look at somebody that's maybe made 100 billion or 200 billion, you know, and if they would have allowed maybe more of their employees to participate in that success, more non-employees through a model like ours, can you see how that would have a very positive effect on society and helping kind of close this struggle or this gap between, you know, everyday, you know, people that have jobs and stuff and the employers or the companies, the entrepreneurs that are starting these companies?
Absolutely. You know, I think at the base of it, people want to be empowered, but they're not empowered. People, you know, you have a group of people that don't take the time to let other people know how much value they provide. And as a result, people stop providing. People stop thinking that there's even opportunity to do that. I think the amount of participation that you get from a particular group or any one person or any number of people depends on how much you empower them to be a part of your vision, how much you empower them to be a part of the idea structure. And I think that, you know, a lot of that was lost. I don't know if it was if it was a generational gap or something happening in there, but I think that if we can get back to the idea of not being selfish, and opening yourself up and allowing other people to pour into you and allowing them to understand that they are empowering them for pouring into you, giving back something, then maybe we can create that sort of community where everybody, you know, you're doing your thing, but everybody feels open enough to help each other or help entrepreneurs, and entrepreneurs would in turn give the people what they need, whether it was just validation or whether it was actual product, whatever it is. I think we need to open that up.
Well, I think it's a lot. I mean, recognition, validation, those are all fantastic. And when we create value in ourselves, so we were talking about on some other shows about going out and creating value for other people. When you create value for other people, then that allows you to create more value in yourself, right? So it's this circle, right? The more value you go create out in the world, the more value you create for yourself, then you can go create more value. And so we've got this value proposition that goes out and makes stuff happen. But I tell you, if you're listening to this show, guys, including more people in what you're doing. Now, we're not talking about communism, socialism. We're talking about value propositions, allowing people to create value. And when they do, figuring out a fair and equitable way to compensate them for that value. We've got about 1 minute and 30 seconds left, Elliot. Any final advice that you would give people? Why don't you cover your social media? How do they get in touch with you? How do they find the game again? And then any final thoughts?
Absolutely. You can find the game at educationalgamestore.com, or you can simply put in The Entrepreneur Game by EE Speaks in the Google search bar. Everything will pop up from there. Entrepreneur Game on Twitter, on Instagram, and on Facebook. I want to encourage all of those people who are entrepreneurs who think they have an idea or have something to share. Don't give it up. Don't stop. You go out there and you do what you have, and then be part of a community. kulaBrands is a great place to start. Be part of a community that respects and appreciates entrepreneurs, and all of the people who are supporting, all of you people who are supporting entrepreneurs, stay at it. Stay at it. Because of you, entrepreneurs can go on and they can do incredible things, and you will be a part of that. You will be a part of knowing that you have created posterity, that you have increased posterity around the world. You have changed people's lives, and you've opened the doors for so many. And what you give, you will receive. So don't be fooled. You will receive something for all of the love and support that you show.
Well, Elliot, it has been fantastic having you on this episode of The Next Big Idea. Guys, we're looking forward to seeing you on a future episode. Thank you for joining us today, and have a fantastic week.
Did you ever imagine that these little inventions like radio and the internet, that there was a time when they were considered the next big idea? And yet, here you are today having just heard a program called The Next Big Idea. Peter Gantner is your host. He's one of the founders of kulaBrands, and they can help you whether you've got an idea of your own or you just want to get in on the ground floor of the next big thing. Peter and his co-hosts and guests are here weekdays on Better Living Radio to discuss the ins and outs of creating, manufacturing, branding, and marketing the best of the big ideas. Maybe you've got one, or maybe you want to be involved in one. You're definitely tuned into the right spot. So hear this. You can hear this program weekdays at the same time on Better Living Radio as kulaBrands presents Peter Gantner and the Next Big Idea.